Hey everyone, welcome back to the fourth episode of our PHP series, and this episode is all about understanding PHP loops. By the end of this video, you'll know when and how to use each type of loop in PHP. So without any delay, let's jump right in. You know what loops do, they repeat code. Instead of doing manually a same thing time and again, if you apply loops, it'll do that for you. So first of all, like in any loop video, in PHP 2 we have while loops and for loops. And there are some variations of while loop like the while loop, normal while loop, and the do while loop, while there are variations of the for loop as well. And the variations of for loop might include for each loop and for loop. So and to exit out of these loops or continue iterations, we have the break and continue. So in this video, we'll just be discussing about all of this: while loops, for loops, and break and continue. So first of all, let's move to while loops. And in order to move to while loops, I'll first of all start the XAMPP, and inside XAMPP, my Apache. So the main concept of while loops is to repeat code while a condition is true. And for that, I have opened our htdocs, and inside htdocs, index.php inside VS Code, and I'll be writing a simple while loop for you guys. Now, our while loop will be creating a variable called x. Okay, so x equals 1. So while, first of all, we'll write a while loop. So while our variable x is less than or equal to 5, we will execute a certain code. So while our condition is true, the code inside these curly braces will execute. So let's say while our x variable is less than or equal to 5, we will echo out our variable. So echo x. Okay. Now after this, we have to write an increment condition. So let's say this is an exit condition, since this will eventually make the loop stop. So x plus plus. Now what I did here is I increased the value of x by 1. X plus plus means it will echo out 5. Echo out the value of 1, that is x value, and it will increase the value of x by 1. So first it will echo out 1, then it will echo out 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the loop will stop. Why? Because we have put the condition that this loop will only execute while x is less than or equal to 5. So you might have guessed it already, it will print out 1 to 5. So for observing our results, we'll just have to type out localhost php and index.php. See, so 1 2 3 4 5, and if we type out here echo and then our br tag and refresh it, oh, this should be inside quotes, I'm sorry. So and refresh it, it will print out all of them in a separate line. So this is pretty simple. Now, while our condition is true, our loop will execute. So this is the while loop, and this while loop checks a condition before executing. So let's say if this was supposed to the value of x was supposed to be 7, this would not execute at all. Since our initial condition is not true, it will not even go inside this loop, it will just skip it. So let's say we echo out, this is after the loop, and then end with a semicolon. I have turned on autosave, so it saves automatically. See, now if we put this to 3, what do you think will happen? Of course, it will output to 3, 4, 5, and then stop. So that's it. So pretty simple. The concept of while loop is pretty simple. Now, if you have to check the condition before running it, no, suppose you want to execute the code first and check a condition. So suppose you want to execute a certain block of code at least once, okay? Despite the condition, you want to execute it once. Well, that's where the do while loop comes in. In do while loop, it first executes a certain block of code, then we define a condition. So it executes, then checks. So for this case, let's define a variable called y, and let's say its value is 10. Okay. Now for our do while loop, our syntax is a bit different. So we'll do first of all our code to execute. So echo and $y. So let's keep a condition after this. First of all, let's keep an exit condition. Like I said previously, this line of code, I'm sorry, this should be $. So this line of code increases the value of y by each time we execute the loop. So after do, we'll keep finally our while condition. So while our value of y is less than or equal to 10. No, let's say less than, okay, let's put this the value of 11. So if we were implementing a while loop, this code will not execute at all. But since we are implementing a do while loop, this do part executes first and then only it checks the condition. So let's refresh. Turns out I forgot a semicolon. So here. Okay, so this is after the loop. So you can see that 11 is echoed out first and then only it checks the condition and stops it. So despite keeping any value, suppose 60, this will execute. Whereas in the same case, if we put the value of 60 in a while loop, this code will not execute at all. And about this increment value, this will increase the value of y as I told you before, but if we put in minus minus, this will decrease the value of y by 1 each time. Scratch that and let's put this a normal while loop. I want to show you guys the exit condition, why the exit condition is so important. Okay, so suppose our initial value is 1, okay, and while our variable, that is y, is less than 10, this will echo out the value of y and then concatenate our br tag. Now let's say we don't implement an exit condition. See, it just goes on and on and on and on and on and on and on. So this will keep executing and eventually it might crash your browser, so you have to exit out of this. Okay, so you do have to define an exit condition. Now if I were to implement the same case, but I would increase the value of y by 1 each time, so this will prevent our infinite loop. What was it? It was localhost. Yep. So yeah, it printed out values up to 9. So that is why the exit condition is important. Now I hope you understood while loops and do while loops. Now it's time for a for loop. And the condition or syntax of a for loop is pretty simple. You have to keep in mind that we use while loops when the number of iterations is unknown. Suppose while a condition is true, you have to always execute a certain block of code. That is when we use the while loop. In that case, our number of iterations is unknown. But while using for loops, our number of iterations is known. So the syntax for loop is for. First of all, we initialize the value of the variable. So we don't have to separately declare a variable outside the for loop. We can do it inside the for loop. So for our for loop, we can define a variable called I equals 1, semicolon, and then out condition for looping. So let's say we want to execute this code as long as our value of I is less than or equal to 5. And then finally our increment or decrement value. So this is pretty similar to a while loop in this case when we are using numerical variables, but the use case of while loops is different than for loops. So echo and then I. Now if we execute this, let's keep a br tag as well. Okay, now if we execute this, this will print out values up to 5. So pretty simple. First you initialize a variable's value, then you define a looping condition for which this block of code inside the curly braces will execute, and then you define an exit condition or an increment or decrement value. The for loop is compact and powerful. It lets you define 3 things in one line. So beginners might find this easy as well or convenient. Now, of course, this is not the only way you can use a for loop. You don't only have to print out values of variables. You can also modify those variable values and print it out. So if I typed out I plus 2, it would give out to 3, then 5, and so on. So let's see. Okay, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? So now, if you want to use another version of for, it is for each. And a for each loop is tailor made for arrays. Instead of worrying about indexes, it gives you each value directly one by one. Super useful when you have to show a list of items, or if you want to send emails to users or render navigation menus. So it is useful for them. It's clean, readable, and beginner friendly as well. So let me show you how a for each loop works. So first, let's define an array called fruits. Fruits. And then we'll type out apple, and then after that banana, and then cherry, let's see, semicolon, and after that, instead of for, we will use for each. So for each, since we are iterating the array called fruits, for each fruits as an individual fruit. For each fruit, we will echo out fruit. And then dot our br tag. Now, let's reload. And we'll see that every fruit inside our fruits array has been iterated. So let me just push this to the side. Okay. So this is how you use a for each loop. You can access each individual element of fruits as a fruit and echo that out. So this can be useful when iterating through arrays. Now those were basically the for loop and its variation for each loop, and while loop and the do while loop. But we have another topic left for this video, and that is the break statement and continue statement. So the break statement basically says enough and exit the loop right now. So first of all, let's create a for loop once again. So for our initial variable I equals 1, and then I equals, or let's say less than or equals to 10, and then I plus plus. If our value of I, so $i, is equal to 5, let's say we want to break the loop. Now this is a single line, but let's properly follow its syntax. And yeah, okay. Now, suppose you want to stop a loop at a certain point, right? Suppose if the value of I is 5, you want to break out of the loop and execute the remaining code. So you don't want to go full way. That is where the break statement comes in. Now if I type out echo and then the value of I and then concatenate a br tag, let's see what happens. So as expected, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it ignores this condition each time the value of I is not 5 and just goes on to this bit of code. It echoes out the value of I. So 1, 2, 3, 4. But after the increment is implemented and the value of I becomes 5, this condition is fulfilled. So it breaks out of the loop, okay, and then it executes the rest of the code. So that is how a break statement works. Now suppose you want to skip I equals to 5. So when the value of I reaches a certain value, you want to skip it. That's where the continue statement comes in. If I use continue, it will skip the rest of the code that is below this continue statement. So inside our for loop, whatever statement is below our continue, it will skip that and it will increase the value of I by 1 and it will start from a new iteration. So this should output to 1, 2, 3, 4. It will skip the value of 5 since we have written a continue, and then it will keep on going to 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. So like I said, 1 2 3 4. After I reaches 5, this continue statement will execute. All of this will be skipped, and then the value of I will become 6, and the loop runs once again. So that is how the continue statement works. Now let's look at some practical examples. Suppose you have to print out even numbers from 1 to 10. What would you do? You would run a loop, of course. So in this case, we will be using a for loop, since we know up to where we have to iterate. We have to iterate till 10. So actually this remaining for loop, or this predefined for loop condition, works just fine. We have to start from, okay, let's comment out our question. Print even numbers from 1 to 5 and 1 to 10. So we have initialized the value of our loop variable to 1. So we'll be starting from 1 and we'll be ending at 10. So this is perfect. For printing out values, for printing out even values, we'll use if, the dollar sign, and then I, if our value of I is even. So if when divided by 2 it leaves no remainder. So this is a modulus operator, if you know from our previous video, expressions and control statements. So if our remainder when dividing by 2 is 0, that basically means the number is even. We will echo out the number. So echo our number, so I, and then once again the br tag. Okay. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So that is it. Now let's say we want to skip the value of 6. Comment down or leave your guesses in the comments below on what do we have to do if we want to skip the value of 6. Or let's say if we want to not print out any numbers from 6 to 10. Now of course you can apply here foo, and that will do the trick, but the solution is one of the break and continue statements. So I hope you guys know what to do if you encounter this type of problem. And that wraps up loops in PHP. We explored the while loop, the do while loop, the for loop, and for each loop. Plus, we also explored how to control them using break and continue. In the next video, we'll be going deeper into arrays, because that's where you'll store and manage your data in PHP. Thank you for watching. If you like the video, make sure you drop a like, comment how you like the video or what the answers are to the questions I just asked you, or what could have been better in the video, or any questions that you might have. That's a lot of ors, so okay, I'll stop it there, and we'll see you in the next episode. Until then, happy coding and bye bye.